What's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel where we take travel to the next level, sometimes literally. Tonight, I'm bringing you along for a journey that's not for the faint of heart. If you thought flying was just about cramped seats and bland snacks, think again. We're about to explore the side of aviation that most people never see, and trust me, it's going to get intense. Today we're diving deep into the world's most terrifying airports. At night. These aren't your average runways. We're talking about airports that challenge even the most experienced pilots, where every landing feels like a scene straight out of a thriller movie. Imagine descending through thick fog, dodging mountain peaks, or touching down on a runway that seems to disappear into the darkness. That's what we're in for tonight. You might think airports are boring, just places to wait for your next flight. But after you see what goes on at these places after dark, you'll never look at your boarding pass the same way again. Picture yourself sitting in a nearly empty terminal. The only sounds are distant announcements and the hum of fluorescent lights. The atmosphere is tense, and every shadow seems to hide a story. When the sun goes down, some airports transform into a pilot's worst nightmare. We're talking about runways surrounded by towering mountains, unpredictable weather rolling in without warning, and lighting so poor it's hard to tell where the runway ends and the darkness begins. Add in empty, echoing terminals, and you've got the perfect recipe for a nerve-wracking experience. So buckle up, because I'm counting down the 7 airports you should absolutely avoid after dark, unless you're looking for a serious adrenaline rush. Each one has its own unique set of challenges, from tricky approaches to unpredictable weather, and tonight, I'm going to show you exactly what makes them so infamous. Have you ever been creeped out at an airport at night? Maybe you've had a layover in a deserted terminal, or your flight was delayed and you found yourself wandering empty corridors. I want to hear your stories. Drop them in the comments below. Let's see who's had the spookiest airport experience. Alright, are you ready to face the darkness with me? Grab your snacks, dim the lights, and let's get into the 7 most dangerous and downright terrifying airports to fly into at night. Trust me, you won't believe what some pilots have to deal with when the sun goes down. Number 7 on our list is Lukla Airport in Nepal, a place that's earned a reputation as one of the most dangerous airports in the world, and for good reason. Nestled high in the Himalayas, Lukla is the main gateway for trekkers and climbers heading to Mount Everest, but getting there is an adventure in itself. The airport sits at an elevation of 9,234 feet, surrounded by towering peaks and deep valleys, making every approach and departure a true test of a pilot's skill and nerve. Lukla's more than just an airport, it's a lifeline for the region, connecting remote mountain villages to the rest of Nepal. For many, it's the first step on the journey to Everest Base Camp, and the last taste of civilization before venturing into the wild. But for pilots, it's a place that demands absolute focus and respect. The runway is incredibly short, just 1,729 feet long, and there's no room for error. Imagine landing on a strip of asphalt perched on the edge of a mountain, with a solid rock wall waiting at one end and a sheer 2,000-foot drop at the other. There's no chance for a go-around. Once you commit to landing, you're all in. The runway itself is sloped uphill to help slow planes down, but that also means takeoffs are even trickier, requiring maximum power and perfect timing. At night, Lukla transforms into something even more daunting. There's almost no lighting, just a few dim bulbs and the faint outline of the runway. In the darkness, the airport seems to vanish into the mountainside, leaving pilots with nothing but their instincts and a narrow strip of hope. There are no instrument landing systems, no advanced navigation aids, just you, your plane, and the mountain. And then, there's the weather. In the Himalayas, conditions can change in an instant. One moment, the sky is clear. The next, thick fog rolls in, obscuring everything. Sudden gusts of wind, rain, or even snow can appear out of nowhere. The high altitude means engines don't perform as well, and pilots have to constantly adjust for thinner air and unpredictable turbulence. It's a place where nature is always in control. That's why flights to and from Lukla only happen in the early morning hours. As the sun rises, visibility is at its best and winds are usually calmer. By late morning, the weather can turn treacherous, and the risk becomes too great. Night landings are considered nearly suicidal. There's simply no margin for error when the mountain is shrouded in darkness. Only the most experienced and highly trained pilots are allowed to fly into Lukla, and even they avoid it after dark. Every landing is a calculated risk, and every takeoff is a leap of faith. For passengers, it's a heart-pounding experience, one that's both terrifying and unforgettable. So, if your flight to Lukla is delayed, don't push your luck. stay in Kathmandu, get some rest, and wait for the next safe window. When it comes to flying into the world's most dangerous airport, patience isn't just a virtue, it's a lifesaver. Number 6. Toncontín International Airport, Honduras. Nestled in a valley, surrounded by hills, pilots must make a sharp 45-degree turn just before landing. At night, the hills are invisible, and the lighting is barely adequate. The short runway means hard braking, and overruns have sent planes onto city streets. Many airlines avoid it after dark. The risks are just too high. Imagine banking sharply in total darkness, runway appearing at the last second. Daytime is nerve-wracking. Nighttime is terrifying. Number 5. Paro Airport, Bhutan. Tucked away in a narrow Himalayan valley, Paro Airport is one of the most challenging and breathtaking airports on Earth. Surrounded by towering peaks that rise up to 18,000 feet, the airport sits at an elevation of 7,300 feet, making every approach a true test of skill and nerve. Only a handful of pilots in the world are certified to land here. These aviators undergo rigorous training and must demonstrate absolute mastery of their aircraft. Each landing is a carefully choreographed dance, requiring split-second decisions and nerves of steel. The approach weaves through Himalayan peaks, with sharp turns and houses visible from your window. As the plane descends, it must navigate a winding path, banking steeply to avoid the mountains and align with the short runway. Passengers can often spot rooftops and treetops just below their wings, making for a heart-pounding experience. Paro is strictly visual. No instrument landing system, no night flights, no runway lights. Pilots must rely entirely on their eyes and experience, using only visual references to guide them safely to the ground. There's no room for error, and no technology to bail you out if you lose sight of the runway. When the sun sets, the airport vanishes into darkness. Landing is impossible. The entire airport shuts down at dusk, and flights are strictly limited to daylight hours. Once the last rays of sunlight disappear behind the mountains, Paro becomes invisible, swallowed by the night. Weather is unpredictable, winds fierce, and clouds can hide mountains in seconds. Sudden storms can sweep through the valley, bringing turbulence and reducing visibility to almost nothing. Pilots must be ready to abort their approach at a moment's notice, circling until conditions improve or diverting to another airport entirely. If a plane ever had to land here at night, survival odds are near zero. With no lights to mark the runway and mountains looming unseen in the darkness, even the most experienced pilot would be flying blind. The risks are so high that night landings are simply not allowed. Ever. By day it's stunning. By night, it's a death trap. Paro Airport is a marvel of aviation, a place where skill, courage, and nature collide. For those lucky enough to land here, it's an unforgettable journey, one that ends safely only when the sun is shining and the mountains are in plain sight. Number 4. Madeira Airport, Portugal, built partly on columns over the ocean. The real danger? Insane winds. Crosswinds and turbulence can toss planes around like toys. Pilots must make a sharp turn on approach, fighting unpredictable gusts. At night, the ocean and cliffs disappear into blackness. Only runway lights guide you. Even with modern lighting, the wind makes every landing a gamble. Flights are often diverted if conditions are too rough, especially after dark. Madeira is paradise for tourists, but a nightmare for pilots at night. Number 3. Juba International Airport, South Sudan. Forget mountains. Here, the danger is no lighting, crumbling runways, and security threats. Pilots land using only their own lights. Potholes and debris are invisible at night. The airport perimeter is barely secured. Animals and people can wander onto the runway. Crime and corruption are rampant, especially after dark. Most airlines refuse to fly here at night. Delays mean cancellations or diversions. Juba is a place you avoid after sunset, for your safety on the ground and in the air. Number 2. Tribhuvan International Airport, Kathmandu, Nepal's main gateway. Surrounded by mountains, the approach is tricky even in daylight. Outdated, unreliable runway lights make night landings risky. There's only one runway, so delays and congestion are common. Emergency situations at night are even more dangerous due to poor lighting and old equipment. Several accidents have happened here, often during landings in bad conditions. Pilots dread night flights to Kathmandu. So should you. Number 1. Murtala Muhammad International Airport, Lagos, Nigeria. The danger here isn't terrain, it's chaos, corruption, and security threats, all worse at night. Lighting is poor, with dark corners inside and outside the terminal. Travelers face bribe demands, theft, and even threats right after landing. Power outages can plunge the airport into total darkness, creating confusion and risk. The journey from airport to hotel is risky, especially for obvious tourists. The best advice: never arrive in Lagos at night if you can avoid it. That's our countdown of the world's scariest airports at night. Always research your destination and flight times. Your safety comes first. Which airport freaked you out the most? Share your stories in the comments. If you found this video helpful, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We've got more wild travel stories coming your way. Stay safe, and see you in the next video.